Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden.
Where we continue to follow the capture and killing of Osama bin Laden now.
Those are just some of the scenes overnight as thousands of Americans gathered in celebration of Osama bin Laden's death.
Former Navy SEAL Rob O'Neill says he has thought about the mission every day since that May Day in 2011.
For multiple conversations you had with Rob O'Neill over the past year and a half, how'd you get
access? And you described that his head kind of exploded when you hit him.
I actually hit him 3 times because I shot him twice when he was standing and once on the ground.
That is the fucking American badass right there.
Go, go, go. We are not going for fame and we are not going for bravado. We are going for the single mom who dropped her kids off at elementary school on a Tuesday morning, and then 45 minutes later she jumped to her death out of a skyscraper.
If you need help, hang up and then dial your operator.
I'm Rob O'Neill, and this is the Operator Podcast. Well, I'm flying solo this week. It is episode 96 of the Operator Podcast, and thanks for joining me again. We've had a couple good interviews over the past few weeks. It's been fun. Actually, managed to find a good studio to use for in-person interviews, and I'm actually having a lot of fun with them because I get to catch up with old friends. Last week's episode with Senior Chief Will Branham, former Navy SEAL for a long time, SEAL Delivery Vehicle, SDV, which it's one of those things where I don't think a lot of people know about it, not because there are classified portions of it, but people just don't want to talk about it because it sucks. But Will was explaining the SEAL Delivery Vehicle and what it does, and I think I brought it up as here's another example of looks cool, looks awesome on a recruiting poster and in that 45-second video, but it just fucking sucks the whole time. And I've never even been in one. I've seen one in a dry dock. I've seen an SDV, and I didn't even want to get in it because it looks like it's horrifying. But the way that Will described it is in episode 95 of the Operator Podcast, and it's just so funny the way he describes getting in a car, having a crush, filling it with ice water, or your worst nightmares anyway. And it is one of those things where why would it be necessary, and because I'm not going to get too much into the weeds, but it's used for a lot of reconnaissance. And there were guys that would, before they even checked into SEAL Team 6, went through selection, checked into the squadron, and already had a silver star. And I asked them if it was, did you go to Iraq with SEAL Team 3? No. Where was this for? It's like, it was in the ocean. It was really cold. I was like, oh, damn, you guys are doing some... And what they do, I guess, is a lot of really serious reconnaissance. And people also don't realize, because I've seen questions before, why were Operation Red Wings in Afghanistan, when we lost a bunch of guys, lone survivor, why would SDV guys be there? Well, because they're also really, really good reconnaissance and snipers. And that's what one of the things do. And that's I've noticed whenever you need to sneak up on someone, it's not like a paintball game where you can go around the corner with your mask and worry. It's like you need to sneak in, and it's gonna suck. Even in training, I was a sniper, and we would train a lot in RNS, recon and surveillance. And the best way to not get caught is to be in places where people can't find you. And that means it's going to blow. And I remember training just sucks so bad because, the enemy's not going to look for us in a swamp. So let's live in the swamp for a few days. And I remember thinking at some point in that cold-ass swamp, because obviously when you're outside and it's going to start raining because you're outside, and you'll hear the bullshit because no motivation. False motivation is better than no motivation. You'll hear that stupid shit. Well, if it ain't raining, we ain't training. You can go fuck yourself too. Fuck right off. But it's almost like, well, if we live in the swamp, then the enemy won't find us. And after 3 days of that shit, I'm like, we are in North Carolina. I don't think Charlie's out here. But the point I was making is it is funny, but the suck definitely comes in. And Will did such a good job. Will Branham did such a good job of explaining what a SEAL delivery vehicle does. And they never really get into the weeds. Fortunately for me, stuff that's classified, I don't really wouldn't understand it enough to explain it, but I do understand cold water sucks, but being in water and not being able to move for hours. And he was nice. He said, 4 to 6 hour dives. I've heard dudes doing dives upwards of 12 hours. And that's just something. And most of this is not a good recruiting episode, I guess, because a lot of the job sucks. And we have that saying, everyone wants to be a frogman on Friday, especially when the sun's still out. That means when it's Friday and you're at happy hour, I'm in buds and it's awesome. Monday morning, back in the surf zone, sucker, and it sucks. But STV is one of those things that sucks. And also being in the military, let's just be honest. We can make pretty much everything suck. If we can make scuba diving suck, and if we can make skydiving suck, we can make anything suck. But the good news is on the recruiting end, when that 1% of the time something goes down and you do something well, or you see one of your guys do really well, the pride that swells up in the whole, sweat a lot in combat so you bleed less, sweat a lot in training so you bleed less in combat type thing. The pride in train like you train, when it finally does come out and you realize that you're really good at this job, or your friends are really good at this job, and more importantly, you're really a lot better than the enemy. That's the part that you need to remember when you're standing on that ramp at 25,000 feet. Can't decide if you're looking at Phoenix or Tucson, but I'm going to land in Marana. Ooh. The good news is the parachute doesn't care if it's daytime or nighttime. It'll either open or it won't. And the good thing about skydiving, like I've always said, is no matter how bad it goes up there, you're going to land. So that's that. I'm going to be flying solo today. I do want to get into more interviews. So like we do on the Operator Podcast, I'm going to read the comments, and the ones I can't read, someone will read on my behalf. So if you feel like being a dick, make sure you be a dick at Mikuya, MCHOOYAH, at Mikuya, because I will read those ones. Someone else might be reading at the Operator Podcast, but definitely go there. But they have deeper feelings than I may, or thinner skin maybe. I don't know, but the point I'm making is if you can think of someone that should be on this. And I'm having a blast interviewing people, and I do, like I said, I have access to the studio locally, and I'm actually going to Montana soon to set up a studio that I can hopefully travel with. And the reason I'm going there is because Tommy O is there, and he's been in radio for as long as I can remember. Because I remember growing up with Tom, it's like he beat my ass. He was an all-state cross-country runner, and then he was in radio. That's pretty much Tom's life in a nutshell. But I'm going to go there because he's got a studio also, and someone's got to know how to set some shit up on the road. So I'm going to go do that. That'll be fun. But if you can think of more people I should try to get on, I'm going to have a mobile studio, and we should just go to them. Because, I'm just saying, episode 200 is coming up pretty quick if I keep doing these podcasts. And I'm having a lot of fun. I hope you're having fun, too. I appreciate you joining me as I go solo on this episode. And I love that this episode is brought to you by my friends at my Patriot Supply, because I'm all about preparedness. You should be prepared, too. We talk about it quite a bit, preparation versus planning, and how the perfect plan exists when you're planning once you leave. Everything can factor in. The littlest stuff you didn't think about will factor in. Like, prime example, if you've been lied to your whole life because it sounds nice, and all of a sudden you meet Hamas. Oh shit, they are assholes. Oh, I don't know how to use a compass. I don't know how to purify this water. So that can come, and then along with that comes the fear and the anxiety and all that stuff. So that's why preparation is so important. And a disaster doesn't wait on you. It just happens. And it's an election year. God knows what could happen. But so this episode of the Operator Podcast is brought to you by My Patriot Supply. Most emergencies, like I just said, come without warning. And when the next one comes, you won't have a second to spare on packing and preparing. You need to be ready to go before the emergency strikes, and it will, soon. Your supplies should be within reach, ready to grab and go at a moment's notice. Secure those supplies at my website, preparewithrob.com. preparewithrob.com. Start with 4-week emergency food kits from My Patriot Supply, helping millions of American families prepare since 2008. My Patriot Supply are the experts in all things self-reliance. Their 4-week emergency food kits offer over 2,000 calories every single day, protected by heavy-duty 4-layer packaging. These kits will last up to 25 years in storage. I have mine in my basement. I've sent some to all of my family members around the country. They have theirs. They are ready seriously to grab and go, and they're delicious. These delicious foods are sealed inside rugged buckets with handles designed to grab and go in a hurry. So the website is go to preparewithrob.com and get your food kits today as your family needs for $50 off each. This offer expires this week, so you don't want to get caught unprepared. They will ship fast. They will ship free in unmarked boxes. Save $50 per kit at preparewithrob.com. Preparewithrob.com. So where to start as we speak to each other one-on-one? One of the things I'm going to get into something here though, but I was raised Catholic in Butte, Montana, and it's a fun place to be raised because Butte, Montana is awesome, but it's in such a bubble that they don't realize they're awesome. They don't realize how good the food is at different places. The wop chop, the pork chop sandwich, the pasty, not the pasty, the pasty. It's a meat pie they used to take down in the mines, and you can eat it with gravy or ketchup, or get a load of this, gravy and ketchup. My go-to is gravy and, I kid you not, large curd cottage cheese, dynamite. Again, it's like being in the military, except the opposite. Looks like shit, tastes unbelievable. So Butte's awesome. But what I thought, just being raised in that bubble, is that the only religion out there is Catholicism. So I was raised Catholic. And then, in my travels, I've seen everything. I've been, what's the saying? I've been around the world twice and talked to everybody once. But getting out there is important because travel is experience, not some bullshit you're going to learn in a classroom from some dude that learned from another dude in the classroom and never left the classroom, but they stayed because they have tenure and they can indoctrinate you, basically. Getting out and seeing stuff is important because I've been to predominantly Muslim countries. I lived in Texas for a while. I went to a Southern Baptist church, mega church, on Easter Sunday one year. Yeah, dynamite. They actually celebrate their faith. Catholicism, working on it. I got Jewish friends now up in New York. I've met all kinds of different people. I went to baptism at a Greek Orthodox church, stuff like that. The point I'm getting at is I've been able to. I've gotten back into Catholicism when we were going to war for so long. It's like living in a bubble, being surrounded by people who are doing the same job. You think that's normal, and when we went to war, and Iraq, Afghanistan, from 9/11, even before 9/11 till when I got out, they asked us to do some fucked up shit, and we did. But because everyone else is doing it, like the mob mentality, it's got to be normal. Then you get away from it, and I've talked about psychedelics and stuff like that, dealing with the crazies, as I would call them, or PTSD, or just PTS, whatever they want to call it. One of my ways to get back into it is going to the Catholic Church, which it's just awesome to get back into. Because if nothing else, you can go there and it's an hour, right? You can go there for an hour, and it legitimately. I disagree with forcing 5-year-olds to go to Catholic Mass, but it's one of the things where you should want to go. Infants, that's another thing because they don't have a choice. Listening to the readings, listening to the sermon, I like to hear what the priest has to say. The singing is getting a little out of control. I know it's supposed to be an hour a week, but just because you don't have enough to say, we don't need to sing it slowly. Unless you bring in a Grammy Award winner. And I think some of the songs are just making up as they go. That's neither here nor there. But it is nice to get back. A lot of stuff's changed since, the time that senior in high school Rob O'Neill graduated at St. Anne's Catholic Church in Butte, Montana, to now, 48-year-old, whatever it is I do, things have changed for some reason. The traditions, it's all based on tradition, and allegedly treat everyone as you want to be treated sometimes, unless, after match you go to Waffle House. God knows, God help you. But now going back, but I think they change a few things, because I know a lot of people that go, twice a year, once on Easter, once on Christmas, because you're supposed to. But they change it so that when you think you're saying something, it's changed, and everyone around you that's actually going to heaven can properly scold you. But I'm bringing up my faith because of something that recently happened, and you may have heard of this. The kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, Harrison Butker, who's the greatest kicker in the NFL, one of the greatest of all time. He's the best kicker in the NFL right now. He went to Benedictine College in Kansas, and he gave a commencement speech. And what he said was basically, I know you're going to be successful, but some of you women are looking forward to getting married and I'm spitballing here, having a family and raising your children. And because I have children, and I recently just had a daughter, she's awesome, Valor's awesome, just seeing the joy that it brings my wife and that she brings into the family, there's nothing wrong with that. It's actually awesome, and you should be very proud of that. And I would be willing to guess being a mom at home is a lot harder than dropping your kid off at daycare with strangers and going to the office for a couple hours. So but people are very, very proud of it. And the point he was making as a Catholic at a private Catholic university, here's what I think, and God bless you. He said nothing wrong, but then he gets attacked. If you can imagine, same names, the fucking crazies on the left, because they're saying that he's it's almost to the point of hate crimes. Like you're taking away women's power, the right to their life, like, because he's very pro-life and very Catholic. You would think being pro-life and just trying to tell the truth about it, as opposed to having an abortion, that's women's empowerment and healthcare. I'm not even going to touch that shit. I don't think it's my place to talk about here. But he's even to the point where I heard Jason Whitlock talk about it, that a lot of the reason for violence is because of broken homes. And why are there broken homes? Well, there are certain rules in place, and believe me, everything's on purpose, where the father of a child, if they're out of wedlock, can't live with them based on some certain program. So you've got a lot of kids growing up without a father. That's got to be really hard on the mother. I don't care who you are. And he's kind of saying having a mom and dad, the family will make a better community. And that's true. And I can't imagine being a kid growing up without a father, especially in some circumstances, but that's going to add to the issues. But what the crazy left is doing is they want to, it's easy for them to blame the guns, not the gangs, because gangs they can hurt you. But a gun, as like Jason Whitlock said, a gun has never pulled its own trigger. And I agree. I've said before that you can take a gun and put it down right here on, you can have one in the chamber, and if there's a safety on it, you can put it on. If it's a belt-fed M60, like I used to carry, you could put that right in the tray, close it down, and it's with an M60, there is safe and there is straight up fucking get some, right? And that, by the way, that's a weapon of war, right? They're not an AR-15. We'll talk about that later. I don't want to get into it, but the point I'm making is you could put it there, slap the tray down, put it on fire, and leave it there. Your entire life, it won't go off because it's not a thing, and it won't yell at you, and it won't argue because it needs a person to make it go boom. And so you need to get back into what is the issue with why are these gangs violent? Well, and so what Harrison Butker was just saying is, I hope you're successful professionally, and a lot of you, I'm sure, are looking forward to raising a family. But now that's become bad because the loony left, they want to get rid of this society. They hate the nuclear family, and that's for chaos, man. That's what they've been doing forever. I mean, that's what the public school system is designed on, making good little workers. But now it's chaos. I mean, now it's chaos. Open borders. Think about this, because, well, if you destroy a city, if you burn a city down, The property's going to go, then we can buy it and raise it back up. We can make a little hand over fist here. Why do you think the borders, among other things, voters and shit like that. But the public school system was designed to, when's the last time you're trying to memorize, not learn? When's the last time you were trying to learn how to do something and you do it for 40 minutes a day and then a bell goes off, you close it and you're out. On to the next thing. Well, I didn't learn the Pythagorean theorem, which to me sounds like that dude just had a lisp. But the Pythagorean theorem, close that bitch. Now I'm going to go learn microbiology for 44 minutes. And then close that because the bell went off. Oh, lunchtime, right? They want people to be good little workers. Do what you're told. Don't do what your parents tell you, because then you won't be good for us. I mean, look what the colleges are turning out right now. There are people saying that Harrison Butker is hate crimes, and then they're supporting Hamas. They have no idea what Hamas is. Why is it that no other Arab country in the Middle East will let one Palestinian in? Because they don't want them there. Because they've seen what happens. But again, this is telling the truth. We talked about preparation. If you're not telling yourself the truth and something bad happens and you're not ready, but you're emotional, you're going to die frozen. You need to actively participate in saving your own life. But the crazy left is getting so nuts that they want him fired. They want Harrison Butker fired. Not only that, they want him replaced with a female kicker. Now, the NFL too, they didn't even back him up at all on this, because they said they're all about equity, inclusion, diversity. Well, unless, of course, you're talking about the obvious. You know, we don't have enough Asians in the NFL. I'm just saying. Not enough women on that team. I'm just saying. So you're not really. You're about winning and then towing the party line. But I personally, though, now here's where I agree with the left. I hope nothing personal against Harrison, but I kind of hope they do get rid of him and replace him with a female kicker. I'm so tired of seeing the Chiefs win. So imagine I said it'll be good for the NFL to bring a woman in to replace him, to show how united we. No, not for the no. That and I do love the NFL. Because I know it behind closed doors. The front offices are great. The players are awesome. They've been busting their ass forever to get there. All this left shit that they're pulling, whatever. But the NFL is so precise with every deliberate move. It will come down. You've seen it, to the kicker. And that can be good and that can be bad. You can be a hero, or you can go wide right in the Super Bowl. Okay. Scott Norwood was there, and he was a great kicker, but do you remember the kicks he made? No. But yeah, I would like to see a female kicker miss one for the Kansas City Chiefs, especially in the playoffs. A game-losing field goal. But now getting back, the reason I brought this up because I was thinking about going to church. I am going to go to church in Montana. I'm excited to go back to the church where I grew up. But I mentioned the stuff that goes on in the church, the traditions, the time-honored traditions, the singing, some stuff's here, some stuff's there. But the one thing that I brought up is it used to be the Lord be with you, and your response was, and also with you. But it changed from the Lord be with you and with your spirit is the new one. And what I was thinking, because the reason I found that out, because there was a hiatus there. I'm not sure if I mentioned this during the combat shit. I didn't mention this, but I mentioned the combat. I stopped going to church for a long time because I thought, well, we're all sociopaths, which a lot of us were. Some of us weren't. Not getting into that either. But when I started going back to church, but before I started going back, I got this little thing called Twitter, and I tweeted something out on one of those stupid May the 4th things, the 4th of May. May the 4th be with you. And I said something like, and also with you. And someone yelled at me on Twitter, it's and with your spirit. Okay. If you're going to yell at me at and with your spirit, and I just tweeted this yesterday, you better not be half-assing your genuflect. Don't just come in there, you put that knee to the ground, do that full lunge. Grandma, I'm looking right at you right now. Yeah, but it's and with your spirit. Dominus vobiscum et cum spiritu tuo. You can say it in Latin if you want, but those, people beating up other people at Waffle House aren't going to know what the hell you're saying. Put some gravy on them browns and the pasty. And there's this, because we bring up the border a lot. and it's being used by a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons. And I've probably mentioned before that I'm not even convinced either side of the aisle really wants the border secure, because wherever their talking points go, and they need their talking points, and it's always the same damn thing. This is, if you haven't noticed, it's an election year, which is going to be so exciting. Who knows what's going to happen? I mean, COVID just happened to happen when they really wanted Trump out of office in 20. Just saying. Something's going to happen now, but the border is like, it's always been pretty much the same talking points. Is the economy stupid? The border's always been a thing. Imagine if the border was closed and all of a sudden, fine. What the hell would they argue about? It's always been abortion. That's something I'm, again, not getting into. But it's always the same thing, and it's usually the same names. You know, remember John Kerry, the Genghis Khan, and there were Americans butt fucking it, something like that. I didn't write it down, but that was John Kerry back in the day. He's still around as czar of climate change. Same. I'm not going to get into him either, because I'm trying to be more positive, and I don't believe in picking on someone just because they have a face like a horse. But the border thing, I have talked about it for many reasons, being used for many reasons. But this one just, I mean, there's so many angles on this one. There's a woman, I'm going to mispronounce it. I am looking at my notes. Yaniri Pena. If I'm saying Yaniri wrong, I apologize to the Pena family and everyone who understands the way to pronounce that name. I don't. But she broke down in tears with News 10 NBC chief investigative reporter Berkeley Breen, because Pena and her children, they fled domestic violence in the Dominican Republic, and it took them a month and a half to travel from El Salvador to Mexico before crossing into Texas. So a month and a half to get there. And they obviously picked her for a reason, because she's probably a wonderful woman with great kids, and they are looking for a better life. Not like most, the military-age males from China crossing near San Diego, or the fentanyl crossing because of China near San Diego, and in Canada, by the way. But they definitely, this is NBC, so they're going to use a woman. But it struck me as funny because she wasn't thanking anyone. She was complaining. A month and a half, which, by the way, we didn't ask her to do that. She just decided to up her kids and leave. Domestic violence, hey, I get it, but we got that here too, right? No big deal. But I'm kidding. It's not funny. That's stupid. But she, a month and a half, they crossed here, and then they were moved from Texas to New York, and then eventually she was moved to New York City, where she enrolled in a housing program, which is great because, I'm sure they're doing housing programs for free for all the homeless veterans that are out there. But anyway, Ms. Pena, they got in a housing thing, and then they sent her from New York City to Rochester, and that is, as they say, is where shit went sideways, because I guess she gets to Rochester, New York, which, if you got married there, that's going to be a destination wedding. But she got there, I guess, and she got to live in a Holiday Inn for 4 months for free. No, you paid for it, but 4 months straight. You know what I would ask too is, now, along with the credit cards that they give them for free that you pay for, so they can get their credit up, so they can buy food that they can complain about, living in free housing that they can complain about. Do they also get those rewards cards? Like, if you, the taxpayer, pays for Ms. Pena's Holiday Inn for 4 months, can she at least use those points to maybe, I don't know, not take your tax money and chip in a little? I doubt it, and I doubt she would, and I doubt the government would let her, because why would they do anything productive? But she moves to Rochester, and she's complaining because they moved her out of the Holiday Inn, which was in January, so the winter in Rochester is pretty brutal. The only people having it worse than Rochester in the winter are my good friends to the left, or not the left, the west in Buffalo. Beautiful, wonderful people. So the weather's so shit up there, you can't help but be a wonderful person. But she moved into a duplex for free, on you, and she was complaining about there wasn't heat, which sucks. She's not paying for shit, so you're inside. And then they showed the refrigerator they gave her, and the reporter couldn't decide if they were little worms or feces. Now, I've seen a lot of both, sometimes together. And I can tell the difference between feces and a worm. They couldn't, tiny worms or whatever. And so she's getting interviewed, and she feels bad. She's like, the reporter's like, "Do you like America?" And she's like, "Yes." but not Rochester. Well, yeah, of course not. No good. I'm quoting her here. No good Rochester, which is kind of funny to me. Sorry, Rochester. I like you. Do you want to stay in America? And she said, yeah, but not Rochester. So that's what was kind of going on here. And I did a little search of things to do in Rochester, and it actually sounds kind of fun. There's a lot. There looks like some really good, like Highland Park looks cool. The George Eastman Museum, the Strong National Museum of Play. Wow, that got five little circles. I don't know which website. I want TripAdvisor. Yeah, that's over 2,200 votes. Okay, write that down, kids. We're going to go there. The Strong National Museum of Play. That's awesome. The one I saw, though, it's in Rochester, and I'm going to probably check it out. It's called Axe Throwing in Rochester, and that's like from $27 per adult, which is what I'm saying is, I can afford to take 2 other adults with me. God knows how many kids. What do they charge for a kid to throw? I got a newborn. They can't charge her much to throw a battle axe. But the problem so far with axe throwing in Rochester, because I'm going to need someone to look it up if they're still open. They got the little TripAdvisor thingies, but they also have no reviews. You know what would be fun? I think I'm going to go. You should do this too with me. Let's go check out axe throwing in Rochester and give them a review. Say it was awesome. Best axe throwing since Pakistan. And speaking of that part of the world, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran part of the world, some news came out of there that the butcher of Tehran, who is the president of Iran, Ibrahim Raisi, I want to say. I don't really care. I don't care if it's Iran. I don't care if it's Raisi. He died. He crashed in a helicopter, an old school Bell helicopter. I think that we made it, we being Americans, because obviously the Iranians blamed the United States, which I don't believe in conspiracies. Like, even Israel came out first off and said, look, we didn't do this, which even if they didn't, it would sort of be cool to maybe say you might have done it, Like a lot of people, I don't talk about my service, but maybe I was there type shit. But even Israel said they didn't do it. We didn't do it. I don't that's so deep in Never Never Land for us that I doubt we would have people there who could potentially, like, if you can pull that off as an assassination, making some dude's helicopter crash, whether it be you did something to the nuts and or bolts, or you convinced a pilot to auger it in, even though I doubt you could. I mean, not to say that there aren't people in that part of the world that will totally kill themselves, but it's not for helping the United States. It's to obviously get into heaven so you can get your 72 Virginians or whatever they're being promised. But I love a good conspiracy theory. I've been involved in a few conspiracy theories, and unfortunately, they're like the stuff that I've seen is so simple it's actually true. But like other things that they're fun to talk about, man, people go crazy. The flat Earth shit, I've mentioned that before. The moon landing's awesome. The moon train, which isn't even real yet, but the funding's put aside because, I mean, who would put that past the government or would not? I'm all, moon train, dude. Shit. Maybe we could. I'm trying to think of ways to help homeless migrants. Moon's a bad idea. But you get a train up there, you never know. But anyway, this Raisi dude was killed, and I think it was just because, bad weather, old aircraft, shitty mechanics. We've seen that everywhere. Stuff falling off of stuff, and here you get a helicopter that simply crashed into the ground. But it was killing the president, the butcher of Tehran. He's a butcher, man. This guy's bad. This guy killed so many people, and in his, this is proof that there are crazies on both sides, because they're actually very, very far right, and they're executing people on behalf of human rights. Believe it, you can look that up, but I don't want to get into that shit. Crazies everywhere. But here's what gets really crazy is the UN. They had a moment of silence, and the State Department issued condolences. Our State Department, and this dude Raisi had they were going to execute people from the State Department, like hit list. No shit. These are bad people. But State Department spokesman Matt Miller addressed the U.S. participation. This is in a moment of silence at an afternoon press briefing. And when asked if the U.S. participation was appropriate, Mr. Miller clarified that Here's the words I love. We have been quite clear. Okay. And whenever, especially this administration says we've been quite clear, they've been fucking lying. But we've been quite clear that Ibrahim Raisi was a brutal participant in the repression of the Iranian people for nearly 4 decades. Okay, that's fair. But let's go on. Some of the worst human rights abuses occurred during his tenure as president, especially the human rights abuses against the women and girls of Iran. Okay, he said that. Now he's making a strong stand. Here's where he gets all, I'll let you decide. He said, that said, we regret any loss of life. We don't want to see anyone die in a helicopter crash. What fucking planet are you on? You don't want to see the enemy die in a fucking... But that doesn't change the reality of his record, both as a judge and as the president of Iran. Rather than use this time to push for moral clarity, this is another guy. This is good. Now, this is a guy making sense. Rather than use this time as a push for moral clarity, this muddled approach toward Raisi's bloody past mistakenly prioritizes diplomatic niceties over reality. And that's very true, because that is something when you deal with diplomats, especially from the State Department. I mean, they're doing what everyone else down there is doing, is they're pushing for personal power and how can I make more stuff and get more powerful. But they like, when we would do briefs with the State Department there, someone literally is staring at, because we do PowerPoint. They're staring at your PowerPoint brief. They don't like a word. They fixate on their word, and then they're not sure you use that word correctly, and then they want to, go against your punctuation and all that bullshit. That's what they're like. Anyway, so Raisi was a brutal participant in the repression of the Iranian people for nearly 4 decades. He's involved in numerous horrific human rights abuses, including playing a key role in the extrajudicial killing of thousands of political prisoners in 1988. Okay, some of the worst human rights abuses on record, especially, like I said, against women and girls of Iran, they took place during his tenure. But, again, we don't want to see him die because this guy was actually seen as potentially being a successor to the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. I love supreme leader. We should do like supersized extra super supreme leader. We get it. You and your boys with those thousands of ribbons that have never been to anywhere. So the condolences from the Biden administration, the UN, the EU. So the Biden administration, the UN, and the European Union all sent their condolences to fucking Iran. Guess who else did? Here's where it's going to get funky for a lot of people out there. Hamas and Hezbollah, they expressed appreciation for Raisi's work on their behalf. Hamas, you may have heard of recently. They called Raisi's death an immense loss, which no doubt meant that they're backing the terrorists, like on October 7th. The Taliban statement claimed that it was deeply saddened and affected by this tragic event. Okay. See what's going on here? Raisi's fellow tyrants and fellow enemies of the United States, they also wept. Vladimir Putin, a lot of people that love Hamas, they hate Putin, they think, but they don't know anything. But Putin called Raisi a true friend of Russia. So China loves him, Taliban loves him, Hamas loves him, Hezbollah loves him, the United States loves him, I guess. China claimed that lost a true friend. It's understandable why Moscow and Beijing, they would mourn him. It's understandable why Hezbollah would. But why does the Biden administration? Ask yourself that. Why are we always trying to talk nice to the people that hate us? He made a living off death to America. And they say it all the time. And then we're dumb enough to believe, that's just a thing they say. That's just they didn't mean. It's like, they're saying it for a reason. If they get the weapons to get here, they will. And it's just so sick to see this happening. Our administration, our elected leaders, and this is proof that they will tell you one thing and do they're siding with Iran. Okay, anyway. But so on this Memorial Day weekend, as our diplomats and politicians are apologizing to murderers and terrorists who wish to kill us, who still hold Americans hostage, as far as we can tell, in Gaza, this Memorial Day, it's in memoriam and in recognition of the men and women who have fallen, veterans who have fallen. So this is not Veterans Day. This is Memorial Day for the people who have passed. And I tell people this time every year, it is appropriate, but I don't say Happy Memorial Day. I say have a blessed Memorial Day. And it's important to remember those who went before us and gave the ultimate sacrifice. For me, I am personally thankful and will be remembering Sergeant William Rivers, Specialist Kennedy Sanders, and Specialist Breonna Moffett, all from Georgia. And they were killed by this guy and the Iranians on the Iraq-Syrian border in January of this year. So that means this is their family's first actual Memorial Day, and they're going to miss their loved ones. They were killed by this regime. So on this Memorial Day, remember them, remember those who have fallen. Take a deep breath, look at the sky, and you're never out of the fight.